Hi, thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be taking a look at the event management module and how to create a single session to be used for a live event or even for a GoToWebinar or a GoToMeeting. We're not going to be getting into the details of the GoToWebinar or GoToMeeting integration details, but we will briefly touch on how you would create it. To get started, you would see the Event Management tab here. You do have to have a subscription to this module. If you don't, you will not see this tab when you log into the system. We're going to go ahead and begin by creating our very first event. Now, one of the benefits of having the Event Management module is that you have all of your information, all of your campaigns, your dialogues, everything in one general area. You're not going to have to be bouncing from a marketing tab to a dialogues tab, back to the marketing tab, and then go into the lead analyzer to have certain actions taken. All of that is done within the event. We're going to go ahead and select New in the upper right-hand corner, and we're going to give it an event name. This is going to be the overarching name. I like a date, so I'm going to put in today's date, and we'll just call it training. And then you can always put in a more in-depth description of what this event is going to be about. Once you have that information entered, hit Save. And it's going to open up the actual event, and you're going to be able to set up some properties. Now, with the event, we start on the left with our sub-tab on Sessions, and we pretty much work our way over to the right. So the first thing that we have to do is we have to create the event session. We have the overarching event. Now we have to create the actual session. So I'm going to come over here all the way over to my right, and I'm going to click on New, and it's going to ask me for an event name. So this is where I would put in. We'll put in Training, Lunch, and Learn. If you are using one of the integrations, whether it be WebEx or GoToWebinar or GoToMeeting, then you would choose it here, and it would tell the system that you need to tie it into a GoToWebinar or other virtual platform user credentials. Again, I'm not going to get too deep into the integrations with the virtual platforms. That will be saved for another time. So for right now, I'm going to leave it as No Webinar Selected. And I'm going to pretend that this is a live event. I'm going to say that the city is going to be Denver, and the state is going to be Colorado, and the country, USA. These are optional. You don't have to complete them. Click on Save, and it's going to bring me inside of the session properties, and this is where I get a lot of other information. Now, the Event Manager was built not only for single sessions, but more optimally for multiple sessions, where you're saying we're doing lunch and learns in 5 different cities, and we want to send out an invite giving you the opportunity to register for 1, 2, or all of them. Depending on how many you register for, depends on how many confirmations you get, how many registrations you get, how many reminders, but it's all coming from a single source. So these tags here that you see over to the right are used so that the information can dynamically change when you are using it for multiple sessions. When you're using it for a single session, there's really no need to use the merge tags because the information will just be static. Everybody's going to be registering for the same session. Go ahead and set the date and time. So I'm going to pretend that this is going to be on the 2nd of October. I'm going to say that it's going to go ahead and start at, we'll say 11:30. And we'll say it's going to be ending at 2:30. You can come down here and see that we have a lot more options down here. You can see that it's active. You can tell the system to automatically remove this session when the end date has expired. You can set the display date. You can set the time zone abbreviation. Again, this information is good if you are going to be having the information dynamically change for multiple sessions. Since we are doing a single session, there's really no need for me to enter this information because it's all going to be going on my initial campaign, my confirmations, and it's all going to be static. You can also limit the number of seats. You can refresh attended. So we give you a lot of options here. Before moving on, I always hit Save and Stay so that it retains the information I just entered. It says Location Saved. Location is, again, just more additional detail, so I can put in the street name. We'll call it 123 Main Street. You can put in additional information, postal codes. You can even put in a map link for a Google Map or MapQuest or something along that lines. The agenda is where you can give more detailed information about this particular session. Again, this is more utilized for when you're going to have it dynamically changed. The one that you will be using is the calendar link. You'll see on a lot of times when you register for things on the confirmation page as well as the confirmation email, there's usually a little button that says Add to your Outlook or Add to your calendar. When you click on that, what it's going to do is it's going to open up and allow you to save that calendar item to your email calendar, whether it be Gmail or Outlook or anything that you are utilizing. You can even set when the reminder is going to pop up. So when you're looking at your calendar and you're 15 minutes out from a meeting, the little pop-up that you get can be controlled here. So you can say, send it out 1 hour before the event. So since it starts at 11:30, it would be going out at 10:30. We have the event URL here, the invite. We have the location. I'm just going to put in Denver. And then you can put in the text here. We'll say that it's going to be at a restaurant called P.F. Chang's. It's going to be in Denver. And we're going to say here's the address and here's the map and all the other information, etc. here. What you then do is you take this little tag here, the event invite link, and what I like to do is I like to put it just in a little sticky note over to the side because you're going to be utilizing it a little bit later. The other areas here, the HTML, the text, the actions, those are all, again, used when you are doing multiple sessions. On today's call, we will be focusing on a single session, so these are not really applicable here. I'm done with the session area, so I'm going to hit Save and Return, and it's going to take me back out to my main event. You can now see that I have my session right here along with the information. I can then go ahead and start working on my campaigns, and the campaigns are going to be the initial emails that go out, follow-up emails, as well as trigger emails, such as confirmations, reminders, X number of days before event, X number of days after event. When you're working with event management, you will have more trigger campaigns than you will initial or follow-up campaigns. And that's because triggers are based on an action or event occurring. And with the event manager, we're looking a lot at the actions more than anything. To start off with, we would want to have our very first campaign going out the door, alerting people, guess what, we have this event coming up. So I would start off by creating a new drip campaign here, and I would go through and enter my information inside of the email designer. Give it a campaign name, so I'm just going to call it, we'll call it Training Lunch and Learn, and then we'll call this one Initial. I'm going to copy that and just put it in for the subject line. You would choose your date and time. You would choose who it's going to. You would grab your HTML, either by importing an HTML file, adding a template, copying a campaign, many different ways to get your content in here. I'm just going to grab a template real quick. Once you're done with your template, you come over to the text. Make sure you always convert the text. Very important, because not everybody supports HTML still. You would go through the testing process of testing Spam Assassin, looking at the Submit to Preview, and then click on Save, Review, and Send when you are ready. Nothing in this email designer is different from the way you would create it as an email, a drip, or a trigger. It's all very similar. The difference is you're doing it inside of the Events tab. So what we're going to do next, now that we have our initial, is we would go ahead and create what I call a subject swap or a follow-up. Under the follow-up campaigns here, I'm going to select New, and I'm doing it in this area because it's going to be going out at a specific date and time to a specific group of people. So I'm saying this one's going out on September 25th, and this one I want to wait, let's say, 3 days, and have it go out on September 28th to everybody who did not engage with the first one. It's the best practice to try to increase your open and click-through rates. So if you aren't currently doing follow-ups like this, it's definitely something to give a try. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to select New. I would give it a campaign name. I try to keep my naming conventions very similar. Let me go back. Give me just a quick second. So here's my one that I just did. Let me just modify that name. So instead of doing initial, this one I'm going to do, we'll call it follow-up. I'm going to copy that, put it into my subject line. Again, you change the information here. You would change the date and time that it's going out. You would choose who it's going to. And with subject swaps or follow-ups, if you're doing it based on action or lack of action of a previous campaign, you of course come down to campaign responses. You would find your first one here, and you would say, if they did not open, we're going to include them in this campaign. Then we can always say, if they did not, or they opened but did not click, then we can also include them as well. So if they didn't click on anything, there's no way that they could have taken action. So we'll say, open but did not click. So now we have our recipients. We can come back to our HTML, insert our content, convert to text, test, and send out the door. This would be email number 2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get into the triggers, because we need to set up our confirmation email, we need to set up our reminders, and we need to set up our post events. So I'm going to select trigger campaigns. I'm going to select new. And I'm going to, again, give this a very similar naming convention. Instead of follow-up, it's just going to be confirmation. I'm going to grab that, put it into the subject line. On triggers, you never change the date and time because it's going to go out whenever the action tells it to. You will need to scroll down and check trigger active, and you will also need to check instant release. Those are the 2 things that you need to check. You then go through and you add in your content, you convert to text, and of course you text. There is no save, review, and send here because a trigger is either active or it's inactive. If it's active and the action or event occurs, then the trigger would go out. If it's not active, of course it would not go out. Let's go to do a reminder. So under trigger campaigns, I'm going to select new again. I'm going to enter a campaign name. We'll call this one reminder. Again, put in a subject line. Go down and make sure your info is active and instant release. And then go through the process of adding in the content, converting, and testing. Let's do one more. We'll do a post event. We're going to select new. And then we'll go ahead and put this one in here. And we'll call this one post event. Put that in for the subject line, active and instant. Once that's done, go ahead and save and return. So now we've started the process of getting our campaigns lined up. We have our initial campaign going out. Then we also have our training, lunch, and learn follow-up. Then we have our confirmation, our reminder, and our post event. We're going to return to the event management, and we're going to continue making our way down. So we started with the sessions. We have our session. Now we're going to go to email campaigns, and you can see now we have all of our email campaigns here. Then we're going to go to actions, and all these triggers that we have here, we need to tie them to an action. So I'm going to go to actions, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an action type, meaning at what action is going to occur. We have a specific date, same day as the event, upon registration, upon attended, upon follow-up, X number of days before the event date, and X number of days after the event. So for our first trigger, it was our confirmation, so that would be associated with on registration. Within that action, I would say on registration, what is going to occur, and that is when I enter my action item. And I say I can add them to a trigger campaign, have an opportunity created, have a task created, add them to a distribution list, push an update to the external CRM if you are using one, remove from distribution list, rescores, send email notifications, as well as update contact records. So we have lots of options here for you. For our purpose, we're going to say add member to trigger campaign, and we're going to say add them to the confirmation and create. That's our first trigger. Now we need a new action type because we're going to do the reminder. And the reminder would be X number of days before the event. I choose the time that I want it to go out, and I choose how many days before the event I want it to go out. Click on Create. Then we have an action item we have to add. This again would be Add to Trigger Campaign. I'd find my reminder, and I would click on Create. The last one I would do would be for my post event. So this one would be X number of days after event, or you could do unattended if you plan to mark them as attended. Either one works. Again, you choose the time, and then you choose how many days after the event, and click on Create. Then we add our action item to choose what campaign are they going to receive, and that would be our post event. So we've just taken our three triggers, our reminder, our confirmation, and our post event, and tied them to the action that's going to trigger them out the door. One of the things that I forgot to mention in here was on the confirmation is adding in this invite link that we originally copied right here. So I'm going to go back into my trigger, and it's very easy to go into these confirmations. You can click on confirmation and go to editor. I'd go to my HTML, and I would do something like click here to add to your calendar. I would take my text that I want the person to click on, and I would use my hyperlink manager, which is the little world with the chain. And then I would take this link right here that I copied and hyperlink it. It looks like an odd hyperlink, but I promise you it does work. This will dynamically change into a link based on what session the person registers for. They're obviously going to be registering for just this one session, so that's what's going to be dynamically populated. And now I have an Add to Calendar link. I'm going to hit Save and Return, and I'm going to hit Return to Event Management and go back out. The last item, we have our session, we have our campaigns, we've added in our actions. The last one is to go ahead and create our dialogue or our form where the person is going to be registering. You do have the ability to copy dialogues from previous events, or you can create a new one using the Dialogue Wizard. So we're going to use the Dialogue Wizard. 5-step process of creating an event dialogue. I'm going to call this, we'll go with the Training Lunch and Learn. Dialogue type needs to always stay event registration. Do not change that. Choose a folder for organization. You can enter a privacy policy, and then you can put in a more in-depth description here if you choose. We'll click on Next, and we'll go and we'll enter what fields do we want to be asking on this particular form. These are fields that are linked to the SalesFusion CRM as well as to your external CRM if we are integrated. If there is a field or a question that you want to ask that you don't want mapped back to the CRM, you create it elsewhere, and I'll show you where you create that shortly. For my purpose, I'm going to do a basic info where it's asking first name, last name, and email, and then I'm going to click on Next. I'm then going to choose either to use the dialogue template library, the email template library. I can copy an existing dialogue, an existing skin, or I can use a blank skin. I'm going to use the dialogue template library, and I'm just going to choose, we'll choose this one right here. Click on Next, and it's going to ask you for the theme. If you're using the dialogue templates, you're going to be choosing a theme of what colors do you want to have in the background. So I'm just going to randomly pick some colors and click on Next. And on step 5, it's going to be asking you, what do you want the Submit button to say? So instead of Submit, maybe I want to say Register Now. You can see that the Place and Trigger email is grayed out because the Place and Trigger email is determined by the actions we've already set up. You can then tell the system to go to a thank you page, or you can tell the system to go to your website. And I'm just going to put in our website and have them go there, and then click on Finish. At this point, my dialog is technically completed, but there may be some things that I want to modify or I want to add. You'll be presented with the normal dialog property screen here with all the options available. And I'm going to go into my first page here that was generated. If I open it up, you can see all my options carried over, my Register Now button. You always want to change the page title. No matter what you do, just always make sure it's something unique. So I'm going to call it Training L&L Registration. Then you can go down and choose the different options available to you. Do you want to map to CRM records? Is this the final page? Do you want to auto-populate the CRM? Click on Save, and down in the bottom right-hand corner, it'll say Page Saved. If I come over to Questions, you can see that it brought over the 3 questions I chose, and it also added a 4th. This one is auto-generated because you are using it from the event management. If I click on View Page, you're going to be able to see my questions, and then you're going to see a little checkbox with the session right next to it. Some people don't really want to have this little checkbox because people already know what they're going to be registering for. So for single sessions, you can hide that, and I'm going to show you how to do that. If you want to hide that checkbox and just have the system automatically know that they're registering for that session, you need to change it to a hidden field, and you need to have a default value. The default value you need to get from this List tab here. So you see my session name, and you see my return value of 840. This will always be a numerical value, and that's what needs to be the default value. Change that to hidden, and change that to 840. Click on Save. And now when I view my page, you're still going to see my questions, but you can see that little checkbox is gone. It's hidden to the end user, but on the back end, we still know that it's going to that particular session. If you want to add additional fields that you don't want to map back to the CRM, you simply create new fields, and you can put in something like, what do you wish to learn? It's a common one. People who are hosting events, lunch and learns, webinars, a lot of times you want to know what they want to get from the event. So you simply just enter the name, enter the question, what type of field is it, and then leave it as Do Not Save to CRM. It'll be captured inside of the dialog. It'll be captured on the dialog reports, but it simply just will not be captured inside the CRM. I'm going to go ahead and click on View Page again, and this time I'm actually going to complete it. So I'm going to enter my information, enter my email address. What do you wish to learn? I'm going to say I wish to learn everything. Click on Register Now, and it should be taking me to the website that I declared, which it did, and now I'm registered for this event. By me registering for this event, this has just kicked off a series of actions. I am now a member of this session in the Event Manager. So I'm going to return to the Event Management, and it's going to take just a moment, but you would eventually see me pop up here under Members. By being a member, I am now enrolled into these actions. So on registration, I will receive that trigger, meaning I'll get it any minute. X number of days before the event, I am going to receive this reminder, and X number of days after the event, I will receive this post-event email because I am now a member of the session. As people are registering, you will start to see their information captured here, basic information, session name, last name, first name, email. Did they register? Did they attend? Were they followed up with? You can also export this to Excel, and you can also look at a member's report. We also have a dialog merge report. As people start registering and captured here, you can click on it and export the dialog results directly from the screen. Again, the purpose of the Event Manager is to have all of this information right here in front of you and be able to run reports on it all at a quick moment. You can technically do something similar using different components of the Sales Fusion system, like the marketing, the lead analyzer, the dialogues, but you're going to be bouncing around to different areas. This allows it all to be in a similar place where you can see it all together. We do have a Learning Management Center where you can watch some recorded videos. We also have an online help manual if you have any questions and you want to take a look and do a quick search. You can put in something like Event Manager and see what information comes up to be able to assist you with it. So Event Management tells you a little bit about it, walks you through what the sessions are and how to create them. As always, I thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a fantastic day.